Hey, Karen here with you today. Thank you so much for joining me for a layout for Cut to You design team. And I'm also participating in this month's CSI challenge, and I have solved case number 367. The cases this month are around books and storytelling and school and things like that. So I am focusing on using the cut file called Our Story, and I am using the book component of the file. And I'm going to be celebrating my sister's love of Jane Austen, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we move forward as well. So the cut file I'm using today does come in two parts. It has a title and that book. I've decided not to use the Our Story component though, and just using the book. So I've printed it off, cut it off quite big because I want it to be the predominant component on the page, and I have backed that with some paper from, I'm pretty sure this is from the Jane Hadfield's Avenue collection, and I've used this paper that is it's like a creamy, and I felt like it was had a bit of an antique look about it, and because Jane Austen is obviously several years old in terms of the date in which Jane was writing, I thought that matched perfectly into where I was heading with this layout. So to give it a bit more of an age look as well, I used some metallic paint in sort of like an antique-y rose type colour. It's more that antique colour, there's not a lot of rose really within that. And I have, just with my fingers, smooshed along parts of the pages, along the cut file, and then used a wet wipe to actually wipe some of that off, because it did get a little bit dark, but it really helped give that aged look. What I've tried to do there is the aged was more in the centre of the cut file, and it sort of progressively sort of lightens out through the pages. It did get a little bit dark in the middle, but I wasn't too fussed about that, and didn't faze me too much because I knew the photos were going to go in that section as well. So I just went along, made sure that there was a little bit of that paint across all the page, and it really does feel like it's given it a bit of an aged look. So to construct the rest of the layout, I used some wood grain paper. That's actually from the Cocoa Vanilla Merry and Bright collection. That's such a beautiful wood grain, and it gave that real orange tones and those gorgeous tones that really matched in well with the Jen Hadfield. I wish I knew what that colour was called, this pattern paper that I'm putting on top here. It's such a lovely orangey toned paper. And my sister actually loves orange, so it fits quite well within that as well. So I gutted that wood grain paper just by a couple of inches and left a square for something else because I love that. I only had one sheet left, so I didn't want to waste it all. And then I put the orange colour paper on top and just creased around and distressed the edges as well. I first originally distressed it with my distress tool, and then used my fingers once it was stuck down just to give it a little bit more height. I've also added some gold splatters. This layout doesn't have a lot of mixed media, but I did want to give it a little bit of a punch on the page, and I placed the gold glitter, this gold spray ink, and then used some white gesso mixed with a little bit of water, and use those white splatters as well. I always find that using the white gesso allows it to sit up on the page and doesn't soak in. I didn't use any gesso or anything on this particular layout because I knew I wasn't going to use a lot of water. And by using the gesso, it does actually sit on top of the paper instead of soaking in. So just adding some bigger droplets there by putting a little bit more water on my brush and using my fingers and pushing down across the bristles there. I wanted to because this cut file is the absolute main feature of this page, I really wanted to make sure it gave a lot of attention to it. So I've decided to pop it up on some foam. That is just some craft foam that I get from my local scrapbook store. Nearly put it on upside down. Lucky I realised that. I'm using Scotch tacky glue. At the moment, I'm trialing that at the moment. It's the first time I've been using that. I don't actually have a fine liner bottle, which I do have one on order. It does stick extremely quickly and very well, so I'm pretty impressed with that glue. It is quite thick though too, so I do need that fine liner bottle, so can't wait for that to arrive in the mail. I've also bent up the pages of the book. Shona may kill me because she's not a big dog reader of books. She takes care of all her books and never likes having her book pages turned, but I felt that really looked like the pages were turning, so I decided to keep that mode going with that whole age look as well. Now, the photos that I'm using today are some photos of Shona's bookcases. Her love of Pride and Prejudice is well known in my family and across the friends. She's an English teacher as well, so she teaches Pride and Prejudice. I think it's to year 12s. I'm not sure. And she loves it. I asked her to take photos of her bookshelves with her Pride and Prejudice editions. She has 42 editions of Pride and Prejudice currently sitting in her bookshelves. They are from many, many years of print. Some are, 30, 40, 50 years old. Some of them have got the most beautiful book covers, beautiful pages. So she regularly gets these as gifts from family, for birthdays and Christmases and Mother's Day and all sorts of things over the years. And there's lots of Pride and Prejudice things that she collects as well. That photo of her there, I'm not sure if you can quite see that, but you will be able to see it in the close-ups. I think this was given to her by a student several years ago, possibly, or some students years ago, or some teacher friends. I'm not sure. I'm sure she'll write it on the back when she gets this layout given to her. I always put a spot on the back of layouts that for people to actually write their own journaling. It's a full-length size of Darcy, played by Colin Firth in the BBC Pride and Prejudice series. So that goes everywhere with her. It just cracks me up. So, yeah, her love of Pride and Prejudice is well known. I probably should admit here now, and you can be cranky with me in the comments if you like, I am not a fan of Jane Austen. I have not read Pride and Prejudice from start to finish. It is not my jam in any way. And it does cause arguments because I don't read it. Maybe one day I'll read a Jane Austen book, but whenever I've started them, I get a few chapters in and just can't continue. So the layout, I decided I wanted to give it a bit of as a lot of my layouts, a bit of a floral explosion. So the Jane Hatfield flowers on her patterned paper were just perfect for that. So I have fussy cut out a heap of those flowers. They're sitting, as soon as I got this paper, and I think it was last year I got it, I cut out those flowers, and it's been sitting in my stash waiting for me to find the perfect layout. And I know that sometimes doesn't always happen, but this time I felt that this matched really, really well. So I started from the left and made that cascade down across the page. Now, I probably should tell you where I got my inspiration from the CSI challenge. And that was a number of things. So the scene itself has branches of people reading. This is the photo prompt. And so I used the branches as my prompt for the wood grain paper, and there is also some written prompts as well which talk about putting things in solid coloured backgrounds, so I've done that. I've used some leaves and flowers which are also part of the evidence list, so I really took that inspiration from there, and part of the colours on the actual photo prompt as well had that orangey and green and leaves and things like that, so I really took it as that from all my inspiration from all of those things. And always to pull through back into the colours on the layout, I also wanted to add some more gold to the picture, so added those gold leaves as well has anyone got those Jane Hadfield gold leaves? Oh my God, they are so beautiful. I love working with them. They're soft. I was able to curl them up. I have so many packs of that. I hoarded them when those came out last year. I love them. So I've also found just that title there, that love, and Jane Austen is just using some thickers. And then I was trying to work out what sort of thread I wanted to put on the page, and I found some gold thread within my stash, and I've placed that on the top, in the middle of the spines, effectively, poking out through the top of the spine and the bottom of the spine. It's just some rolled thread. And I asked Shona, because I grabbed her obviously to get the pictures of the photos, and she realised obviously there was some sort of scrap thing happening. I asked her to send me some of her favourite Jane Austen quotes. So I do place on a quote here as well, which I just typed up on and printed off and popped it up onto some cardstock as well underneath some foam, which will be right there in a moment. And the quote that I put up there, she sent me about 10, but my favourite quote probably out of all of them was, "My courage always rises with every attempt to intimidate me." Oh my goodness, maybe I really should read it. Some of the quotes she sent me were amazing. So, yeah. I also kept going with as you can see, kept adding flowers because I can't help myself. Just filling up some of those gaps and not leaving too many gaps aside. I do also grab in and put in a couple of tiny little gold hearts on the bottom of the right hand side page, and then I go back over everything as well, just to make sure that everything is sitting up. So the petals and the flowers, some of the leaves are also sitting up, and also the book, making sure that it's all sitting up perfectly. So I hope you'll take part in this month's CSI challenge. Please make sure you hop on over to the Cut to You store and check out all the fantastic cut files that Gwen has in store at the moment. And don't forget to share as well in the Cut to You headquarters group on Facebook. I will have links for everything below. The final layout is coming up, and with some close-ups as well. I would love it if you liked and subscribed. I want to thank everyone who's recently started subscribing to the channel. It always amazes me when I get someone else new watching. So hello and welcome, and thank you so much for joining. And I hope you have a wonderful, scrappy month. And I look forward to sharing my next share for Cut to You in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.